YouTube. It is NZ Dreamer here, and today I want to talk about a dream that I had in 2022 where I heard Yahweh's voice. And yeah, I'm not kidding. It's Yahweh's voice. You know, Yahweh. You know, the God who gave Moses the Ten Commandments. The God of the Old Testament. That's the name of like the God in the Old Testament. If like you don't know, that's like the name that like the Israelites gave like God in the Old Testament. So pretty much, without further ado, I'll start to explain what my dream was, and I'll start to explain the context. So pretty much what was happening was in 2022. I used to talk to this girl that I was interested in, and like things weren't really going for very well. She just wasn't giving me a chance. She wasn't like talking to me back or anything. She wasn't really talking to me. You know, she wasn't like giving me a chance. She like just wouldn't reply to me and all that kind of stuff. I was really struggling. I was feeling real bad about it. I was telling these people about like how I wasn't into it, and this one guy said that this girl doesn't like you, and like I kind of started to realize he was actually right, because a life lesson I've learned is that the people who are kind of dicks to you, or like they don't like hold back what they say, they're always the ones that get it right. So you know, they're gonna tell you what you need to hear, man. So people who are kind of dicks, they actually tell you what you need to hear. So you know, that's like a life lesson. But pretty much what happened was I was praying to God. I was asking God to like I apologize for that. I was asking God to like help me out and stuff with this. I was praying to Him, and I remember like I was really getting desperate when I was praying. One time, like I was praying to Him, I felt like a lot of chills going down my spine and stuff. And I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit. Like I thought it was the Holy Spirit back then, but I felt like a chill going down my spine. I felt like this energy going down my spine when I was praying to God about it. And it's like back then I didn't eat pork, lobster, or anything. I followed the kosher diet. And like I meditate every morning, so if you want to like get more prophetic dreams, like I say, like cut out the pork, stop eating pork, stop eating junk food, and meditate every day and pray to God. That's how I got so many dreams back then. It pretty much, you know, I was praying to God and stuff like that, and you know, pretty much I was like I don't really remember what happened, but I remember like the night like it happened. I was just having a normal dream. Like I was having a normal dream. Like this wasn't a prophetic dream of like any kind of stuff. And then pretty much what happened was that I heard this like voice. Like pretty much what happened was like I was having a dream, and then the dream just turned off. It turned off. Like if you like turn off an old TV, it kind of like fizzles out and all that. And pretty much it turned off, and all they pretty much it turned off, and there was nothing but Yahweh's voice. And I heard Yahweh's voice, and Yahweh said, "Rachel doesn't like you." Now, this girl's real name isn't Rachel, but like I don't want to like dox her. He pretty much said Rachel doesn't like you, and like I heard Yahweh's voice, and it was like in the dream it was nothing but Yahweh's voice. It was blackness, but it wasn't even black. It was just Yahweh's voice. Like I instantly knew that it was Yahweh. You know, the God from the Old Testament, like the Old Covenant that I call it now. And pretty much I heard his voice like going through me, like his voice like literally somehow went through me somehow, and it was like it was amazing. It was awesome. It was like the most awesome thing that ever happened to me in my whole life. And like I felt his voice going through. I somehow felt his authority. I felt Yahweh's like authority and stuff, and it was like a loud booming voice at the top of his like lungs and stuff. And it was like if you watch like the Ten Commandments or something, or kind of like if you watch the Ten Commandments of the Prince of Egypt, that's kind of how Yahweh's voice sounds like, except it's kind of like more stern, fatherly, authoritarian, and it's kind of like Yahweh was pretty much acting like a father to me and stuff, and pretty much yeah, I had the dream. It was like Yahweh's voice, and it was amazing. You know, as I heard a loud booming voice that spoke through me, and I felt his authority. It was absolutely amazing. Now, what happened like afterwards was that I got this weird download in my head saying that this voice that talked to me, like somehow like this voice when he spoke, he imparted lots of information in my head and stuff. Like he just downloaded, like he gave me a bunch of like knowledge, and he downloaded a lot of information in my head. And pretty much like he downloaded tons of information in my head. And pretty much what happened was that when I heard the voice of Yahweh, pretty much like I somehow like the next day, the next few days, I like somehow came to know that the voice of Yahweh that I heard was the same voice that talked to Moses and gave him the Ten Commandments, the same one that talked to John the Baptist to tell him to baptize people, and it was the same voice that spoke when when Jesus was baptized, like when God said, "This is my son, in whom I am very well pleased." That was the voice that spoke. So pretty much, um, what I learned that day was I learned that there were that that different prophets, they actually hear different voices of God. Like not every voice of God is the same. There's actually like different kinds of God. There's different aspects of God that we hear from. And like different prophets of the Bible actually heard different voices of God. And John the Baptist, Moses, and Jesus heard the voice of Yahweh. And pretty much that's actually what it, and pretty much I came to the understanding that that's what it actually meant when they say in the New Testament that Jesus was a prophet like unto Moses. They're meaning that Jesus heard the same voice as Moses. Like they're not actually saying he's literally like Moses. They're saying he heard the same like voice of Moses and stuff, like voice as Moses. And yeah, now I know that there's lots of people that believe in Yahweh and they only believe in the Torah and stuff like that. And like I want to say, man, that it's like I know that, but apparently, according to this Yahweh dream I had, apparently Yahweh doesn't seem to have a problem with the New Testament. If it turns out I'm wrong, or it turns out like what these downloads I got afterwards were wrong, okay, that's cool, but like that's what I got in 2022, 3 years ago. And it's like I've been afraid to post the dreams until now, but I've decided to like start posting them. So yeah, pretty much, apparently it was Yahweh's voice that spoke. When Jesus said he was the son of God, I guess he was saying he was the son of Yahweh. And when he was talking about the Father, I kind of think he was talking about Yahweh. Like I think that, like I don't think Jesus Christ is God. I don't think he's God. I think Jesus Christ is just a human, right? But I think that when Jesus was praying to his Father, he was talking to Yahweh, and Yahweh was the God of Israelites and stuff. And I think that like he was saying he was the son of Yahweh. Now, is Jesus literally Yahweh's son? I don't know. Like I personally think it's kind of metaphorical, but maybe Jesus Christ was one of Yahweh's like angel children or something, and he became a human being and stuff. It's like it's not impossible that an angel could be born in a human being's like body, because like an angel has a soul, right? And we have a soul, and our souls are both equal. So all that means is that like a soul from a better body is going to like a lesser body and stuff, and yeah, and all that kind of stuff, man. So I guess that's kind of what's going on now. Yeah, now this kind of makes me think the virgin birth isn't real, because it's kind of like that's way too close to Greek mythology, and to like the Book of Enoch. It's like these Greek gods, they would like have children and stuff with like human woman. They go and sleep with human woman. That's exactly what the Watchers from the Book of Enoch did. And that kind of makes me think that when the Book of Enoch was written, it was actually inspired by Greek mythology. Because if you look into the timeline, the Book of Enoch was actually written during the Second Temple period. I'm not saying it wasn't inspired by like real stuff, and it's not real, but according to history, it was written in the Second Temple period around the same time as Jesus. In fact, the Book of Jude quotes Enoch, so I kind of think the virgin birth is fake. Now, what does it mean when it says that, like, this woman will be born of a virgin and called Emmanuel and stuff in Isaiah? Well, I kind of think that means that it's like a young woman and stuff. So yeah, that's what I gotta say, man. And in total, and to sum up the dream, I heard Yahweh's voice, told me to cut off a girl. Uh, he apparently the voice of Yahweh was the one that John the Baptist heard when he was baptizing people, and he told him to baptize people. And apparently Yahweh's voice was the one that spoke when Jesus got baptized, and a dove descended from heaven, and basically said, "This is my son, and who I am pleased in." So yeah, that's apparently what actually happened. It's like, yeah, like I mean, there's gonna be people who say that Jesus Christ was an invention by the Romans, and what I gotta say to them is like, hey man, I don't know if that's true or not, but what I know is true is I heard from Yahweh and I got this download afterwards. So if nothing else is true, I at least heard from Yahweh. So yeah. And like the last note I want to say is something that's very interesting is that it's actually very unusual for like Yahweh to be like so concerned of somebody's romantic life because in the Old Testament, in the Old Covenant, um, Yahweh was actually he didn't really seem to care who people were romantically involved in. Like he didn't seem to care who people were with. Like because when the leaders of Israel they got with different women, Yahweh pretty much let him be with his woman, even though their romantic involvement with this woman would have been worse for the world than my romantic involvement with this woman. For example, Samson, he was allowed to be with Deborah, and Solomon was allowed to be with all of his wives, even though they caused him to commit idolatry and occultism. So, yeah, that's an interesting note. So I guess this must have been a pretty important thing for Yahweh to see if Yahweh himself was going to get involved and step in, because it's like Yahweh, he runs the world. He makes sure the planets spin around the sun, and he makes sure the sun goes around the earth, and he makes sure that like I don't know, we have enough oxygen to breathe, and he's like thinking about all the ways the world are being made. Yet, obviously, this problem I was having with this girl was so important that he said to like he decided to tell me to stop pursuing that girl, which is crazy. So yeah, it's that's my testimony I want to share. And it wasn't really a dream because I think it was just Yahweh speaking, but it's still really interesting. So yeah, thank you for listening to this dream, and I hope you enjoy my other dreams. What I want to say is that if what I said about the download being true is actually true, like if the download I had afterwards is true, then that kind of means that I think this means that Jesus is God. And also, something that like I forgot to mention was that it never says anywhere in the New Testament or any records of John the Baptist that he heard a voice telling him to do what he did. Yet I got a download saying that Yahweh spoke to John the Baptist, so I'm actually revealing apparently. So I guess I'm actually revealing like biblical history that happened. If this dream was true and was actually from Yahweh, and the download it got afterwards was actually from God, then I guess it's revealing that John the Baptist heard from Yahweh. And I think this is proving that Jesus ain't God because like he's not God, or at least he's not the same person as God. Like he's not the same person as Old Testament God, because he said that the Father is greater than I. He prayed to his Father, and he says he was the Son of God. Like you can't like if you're the Son of God, you can't be the same person as God because God's your dad. Like I'm not the same person as my dad. My dad is older than me, and when I was a child, my dad was like, well, my father is not me. Like I'm not my father. I'm like my father, but I'm not the same person as my dad. So Jesus can't be the same person as his dad. So it's kind of like if there's a whole voice from heaven saying that this is my son and whom I'm well pleased, then how can Jesus be the same as God? So yeah, it's I'm not saying that Jesus isn't a supernatural being. I just don't think he's the same person as God, and I think Yahweh might have been the Father referred to in the New Testament. It's either Yahweh or El Shaddai, because there's actually different forms of God in the Old Testament. Like the God that was prayed to in the Book of Genesis doesn't actually have the same name as God in the Book of Exodus. In the Book of Exodus, God is referred to as El Shaddai, but in the rest of the Torah, God is referred to as Yahweh. So there's actually two different like gods, and Yahweh might be like a different form of God, or like a different God to El Shaddai. But it doesn't make Yahweh a bad person, because like Yahweh's trying to help out humanity, but I think that they're two different people.